All righty. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's edition of Roundabout Sports presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media, where our passion is our profession. Thank you for tuning in to what was a beautiful sunny Wednesday. It's March 6, 2024. I'm the Maestro, Jeremy Carp. And alongside me, he is the host of the Blue Note Fan Report, and he's a blues correspondent for Interstate 70 Sports Media. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Guy Bensing to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you for having me today, Jeremy.
Oh, it is an absolute pleasure. Thank you for joining us.
No problem, man. No problem whatsoever. So, hey, just real quick, where are you broadcasting this at so I can share it? I got it.
Yep, folks, for those that are just tuning in, be sure to follow us on YouTube, on X, you know what, I tried to keep calling it Twitter as long as I could, but you know what, I might as well just start calling it X. So we're on X, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. You can find us also on Spotify, on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. We're all over the place, folks. And be sure to keep the follows and subscriptions going. Also, be sure you still got time to go to the STL Magazine's A-List Reader's Choice poll and vote for Interstate 70 Sports Media as best blog. You can vote once a day until March 12th, and we all here, our amazing team, would love your support. Okay, so with all of that said, Guy, I have to ask, you know, I feel like the pressure is heating up for the St. Louis Blues now that, they lost to the Islanders and the trade deadline is this Friday. So,
Yeah,
what's the state
there's
in that office looking like?
no. I was concerned. I've been concerned for a little bit now. The 5 games, the homestand they had, where I felt they had to win 5 of those 4, and they only won 2 of them, kind of set the Blues back. And then you got to this point with this East Coast trip. The games were really important. 3 of them were extremely winnable. The one against the Islanders, extremely winnable game. They have the one coming up against the Devils, extremely winnable game. Then you had the one against Philadelphia that they won. And without where they're sitting now, it's possible to make the playoffs. It may not be probable. And here's the one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize. In the last 10 years, the Blues have only drafted one guy, not counting last year, in that non-20 rank, right?
Right.
In the non-20s. And that guy was Bolduc. Other than that, they've pretty much been in the 20s. And they've done very, very well. So making the playoffs doesn't affect how they draft, is what I'm trying to get at. You know, so I don't, you know, people say, oh, don't make the playoffs, we'll get a better draft pick. I disagree with that. I hear all the rumors. Trust me, I hear all the rumors. Some of them make sense, some don't. If I'm the GM, I can't trade Buchnevich. I can't. It's you are building something very strong here, and he is a veteran that helps build you that. Right? I really believe that he's that veteran that builds that strength, and you can see it in the way he plays with Thomas and the way he plays with Kyrou. He's definitely a major part of that line. Now, with that being said, another thing that goes into this, and I think a lot of people don't understand this, is the way the salary cap is set up and the pre-COVID, post non-COVID. Pre-COVID, I see Buchnevich getting traded in a heartbeat because the way salary caps got projected down the road, you had money. The commissioners come out and said originally $4 to $5 million for this coming season, and maybe 4 to 5 for the season after. If that comes to fruition, you're perfect. You're right where you need to be with Buchnevich to offer him what he wants if you want to keep him, right? Maybe not term. He may not get term, but he might get money.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't offer him the 5 or 6 years he wants. I'd offer him 3 at the money he wants because of his age, right?
Right.
And that, but again, you're going to have a lot of GMs now that are not going to speculate on cap. They're going to look at what the cap is now and say, okay, what if I only get another $1 million the following year and the following year? And you're seeing that. I talked to another podcast host who joins me on my show a lot, and I brought up, he's saying, well, the league's just not going to jump the cap that much. And to me, they have to. They've created a situation where if they do not jump the cap at least $4 million this coming season, they're going to have so many teams that cannot field a full 20-man roster.
Yeah, and I look at with Buchnevich, I mean, he's been recently linked with the Oilers specifically. The trade talks have been heating up like crazy with teams inquiring about him. Now, for the rest of this year, he has a $5.8 million deal for the rest of the season. But the thing of it is, if you were to trade for Buchnevich, I mean, St. Louis has apparently been asking for at least 2 first-round picks.
And they should. And they should offer
which
more.
Is
they
worth
should
it.
Ask for more.
It's worth it. The reason, though, and the thing of it is, okay, this, and like you said, the ask was before was 2 first-round picks, which, I mean, you could have a first-round pick plus an equivalent, so a star player that's worth the caliber of another first-round pick. I mean, now, if you add in one more top-level asset and get a team to retain half of the contract, that's 3 pieces coming back on top of the 3 you just drafted.
Well,
add in Jake Neighbors' 20-goal season, Kyrou and Thomas being only 24 and 25 years old. The Blues can build well long-term, but they still want, they want to keep Buchnevich, but if they have to get rid of him, they're going to make the team that wants him pay.
Yeah, the thing with Buchnevich, and you really got to look at this, and this is what, so when you hear all the trade proposals, first thing I do is I go to Cap Friendly, and I look at the salary cap. The Edmonton Oilers have the exact same salary room that we have. So in order for them to make a trade, it has to be dollar in, dollar out. Then there's another thing that I think a lot of people don't understand. When you retain salary, it is not for you're only retaining for 1 year, and then you retain salary for the remainder of the contract. So in order to retain salary, you're going to have to retain $2.6 million or $2.4 million, whatever it is, of his salary the remainder of this year and then next year. Well, to me, that defeats the purpose of trading his salary away. It doesn't, and then you've got to bring in the same amount of salary. And the guys that they want are guys, defensively, the Blues are not as bad as everyone thinks they are. The Blues problem, I'm on a limb on this one, trust me. The Blues problem is not defense, and it hasn't been defense for a very long time.
Okay.
The Blues problem since Jim Montgomery left has been offense.
Okay.
Their offense is what when Montgomery was there, their offense created a strong, solid, unified defense because they spent a lot of time cycling the puck. They spent a lot of time in the other team zone. They got the puck through the neutral zone with some speed, with some accuracy. And after Montgomery left, all of that went away. And then all of a sudden we have this horrible defense. It's not so much the defense as it is our offensive play has gone. And in fact, you look at games where we've had really strong, solid offensive play, and you see it. The problems that we see are because the offense breaks down. The Islander game, Jeremy, was absolutely a microcosm of this. You saw it in that game, right? When the offense was clicking, they scored 2 goals on 5 shots. Then they don't take shots. Then they go to this defensive posture, and the Islanders spent the next half of the game in their zone. Well, you're going to give up goals when that happens. You're going to make mistakes. You have to attribute for that by continually playing your offense. And this is something that from the former regime that has happened is once the team gets that 2-goal lead, they fall into this prevent defense and it burns them almost every single time. And it burned them really bad against the Islanders because for the most part they outplayed the Islanders, though it didn't look in the stat sheet. You'll say they didn't, but you'll watch the game and they did until they got that 2-goal lead.
Right. Now, looking at, like I said, we have 2 days left until the trade deadline is up. From the date of the show, there is a lot of names out there that, okay, let's just say for the hell of it that Buchnevich does get traded. Okay, and say we have the Blues do get their first, and they get a player to the caliber of a first. One example, this gentleman that I'm about to name has 1 year remaining on his contract at $3.65 million AAV. Frank Vetrano, from the Anaheim Ducks. They don't want to move him, but with the salary cap, you really got to make the adjustments that you wouldn't normally make. And the
I
Ducks
think
are in a situation.
Vetrano just went somewhere else, didn't he?
Did Vetrano just get traded?
His name's come up a lot. I thought something might have happened with him.
I was going to say no. He has not gotten traded yet. He is still on there. He is still There's a lot of names. Another one who I personally, even though he's older than Buchnevich, and so in a way, I do feel like, play it carefully. Jason Zucker from the Arizona Coyotes.
No.
He can rotate from left and right wing.
You've got to look at Jeremy. Unfortunately, Jeremy, you have to remember that you have to. Where does he want to go? Because I think Buchnevich has the no trade clause. Right?
Yeah, Buchnevich. Here's the thing. Do you think
he has a 12-team? He has a 12-team no trade clause. So I'm guessing that a lot of those lower end teams are on that list. If he's going somewhere, he's wanting to win he's wanting to win a cup.
Well, let's see. I'm trying to see if we can even figure out what the teams, because I do believe it was an 8 team as opposed to a 12. I think it was adjusted. But I do not know exactly what those teams are. And usually that's kind of kept under the radar anyway. That's not something that becomes super public knowledge. Right now you look at the cap hits. Right now the Maple Leafs have the 97. They lead the league with a $97 million cap hit per the season's end. Right now, you go down. The Blues right now have a projected cap hit of $83 million. They have projected cap space of $678,000, and they have $2,959,000 in current cap space. So it's a very slippery slope right now. And before we continue, I want to say hello to Erickson Krieger and Jason Nichols, who are sending in comments, folks. If you're tuning in live, be sure to send in your comments, your questions. We'll get to however many of them we can. I definitely want your thoughts on this one that Erickson sent in, Guy. It's truly amazing what Mark Stone's annual trips to LTIR late in the year can do for the Knights. I'm sure he'll make that recovery just in time for the playoffs, too. Astonishing way to cheat the system year after year with zero repercussions.
That is something. I don't know if you can say that he's cheating it because he is hurt, but should he be on LTIR? I think that's something the league will look at. without LTIR, and I'm sorry, guys, you got to look at it. Without LTIR, most teams would have 15 guys on their roster, right? And when you looked at Toronto, you got to look at what's on their LTIR. Toronto's got like 10 million on their LTIR, right? Now, if you're not aware of how the cap works and what LTIR is, long-term injured reserve. Well, there's two different types. There's injury reserve, and then long-term injury reserve. IR, regular IR, just gives you just gives you roster relief, meaning you can bring a guy in, but it doesn't change your cap. LTIR, and LTIR has got to be on for a longer period of time and all this. That money comes off your cap while they're on LTIR. Now, what they're showing, this is surprising me, showing that they only have 146,000 in LTIR. I thought they had more than this, so there might be something else going on. Oh no, they have a pool of 14 million. So they have 14 million that was in that pool, and that's why they're at 97, because the cap is 94. The cap is 83.5 million dollars. That's the cap. That's the total cap number.
Wow.
Yeah. So LTIR is where a lot of that's coming from. I shared the show. I was able to share the show on a couple of my pages, so tried to help you out, bud.
No, I appreciate it. This helps all of us out, and folks. Guy, before we continue, let folks know, those tuning in, about a little bit about the Blue Note Fan Report.
Blue Note Fan Report is I want to say not daily, but we're every game day. We come on a half hour before the game, and then we stay on throughout the game, and we're like a reaction show. I watch the game with you and answer your comments and talk to you, let you know how people like to yell at the TV? Well, you can yell at the TV with me, right? So that's how the Blue Note Fan Report works. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And you can just, or you can follow me on my page, Guy Bensing, on Facebook, and go from there. But really, with the trade deadline coming on, it started today. There were 3 or 4 trades in the NHL today. Vladimir Tarasenko is now joining another Tkachuk, right? He went from Brady to Matt. He got traded to Florida today. Florida gave up 2 draft picks, with one of them being conditional, and Ottawa held half of his salary. So they're only paying $2.5 million for the remainder of the year, prorated, obviously. But that's Tarasenko's. Yeah. And I'm surprised that they got this to work, in not just in the salary cap and all of that, but I knew that his family is staying in Florida, and he's a heavy family man. So I knew that if he was going to go somewhere, I just didn't think one of the Florida teams were going to get it. I thought he was going to go to the West. I thought he was going to leave the East. So it kind of surprised me that he stayed with an Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, I definitely surprises me. Now, looking at the standings, I mean, we talk about with the wild card, there is always a chance the Blues make the playoffs. Right now, they're 9th in the Western Conference. They are at 62 points, which is actually tied with Seattle, but they have the tiebreaker over Seattle.
I think we have a game in hand on Seattle.
Yeah, we have a game in hand on Seattle. Actually, I'm sorry, we have 67 points.
Yeah.
But we have a game in hand on Seattle. But the thing of it is, we're still at 8th in the conference is the Nashville Predators at 73 points.
Yeah,
we're three-way tie with them, the Knights, and the Kings.
Yeah, and we've got a game in hand on the Preds, maybe 2. We might have 2 games. We have 2 games in hand on the Preds, so we're slightly outside of the margin. When you look at it, simply this: we need to win 3 more games than the Preds win for the remainder. If that happens, we're in the playoffs. I mean, That's what it comes down to. We need to win 3 more games than the Preds, and they're on a 9-game point streak. So Actually, we're
A little tough.
6 points behind them, so we need to win 4 games more than them. Had to think about that for a second. The with all of this, first of all, here's the thing that you need to be thinking of, and I hear so many Blues fans. I get so many negative Blues fans, and I understand it. They have every right to be. It's not a big deal. I understand it. The thing that a lot of Blues fans forget: this team was not supposed to be a playoff team. Beginning of this, not beginning of the season, but at the draft. And prior to the draft, Armstrong come out and said, I don't see us being better than we were last season. Right? And it
Not the
wasn't
most fun thing to
until,
say.
huh?
I said, not the most fun thing you'd want to say, though.
Yeah, it wasn't until training camp when season tickets were stagnant that he came out and said, "No, we're going to try and challenge for a playoff spot." And that, I think, was more of a season ticket ploy than anything. I thought they were the fifth best team in the division. That's what I had them at. Fifth best team in the division. And I thought the division was a lot weaker than what it has been. There's been some surprise. Winnipeg has been a huge surprise. Vancouver over in the West, huge surprise.
Vancouver to me
Calgary
one of the
falling
biggest
off a little
surprises
bit,
of the
huge
year.
surprise. Say again?
I was saying Calgary and Vancouver perhaps are my two biggest surprises of the season.
I think Vancouver on the bright end, yeah, they're in the West. They're the surprise on the good end. On the back end, the bad end, I think Minnesota falls into that a little bit more. Though a lot of people did think Calgary was a straight, 1-2-3 playoff team, and they haven't been. But I don't think as many people are surprised that they fell off. And that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we got him here, but not sure. And thanks for the little thing down below. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So when it straight comes to that, Jeremy, it just right now St. Louis sports is in a really rough spot, right?
Right.
The only bright spot might be the Battlehawks. And I'm afraid that they're going to have a bad season, to be honest, right?
Yeah.
The thing with the Battlehawks, because the way that league works, those players that are on the team aren't necessarily signed to the team. They're signed to the league and then assigned to teams. So depending on where the league wants to put players, they could slip, right? And I haven't seen the roster, so I don't know this for sure. And then you have City. Now, City, for me, I think City is taking a little bit of a page out of Vegas's book and Seattle's book, right?
Okay.
They're flip-flopping it. Seattle did not need to teach their fans how to lose, so they had a losing first season, but then were able to make the moves to have a very good second season. Vegas, on the other hand, when they came into the league, they did not need to teach the last thing that they needed to do was to teach. They needed to really solidify that. So they went and they put in a thing where we're going to win now. We're going to bring fans in and not teach them how to lose and then make them happy later. We're going to bring them in and win now. And for them, it worked. They only missed the playoffs, 1 out of 6 years, and ended up winning the cup. I think City didn't need to win now, but they wanted to win now. And this season, it may haunt them a little bit, and they could fall off and be the opposite of what the Kraken did. However, they still could continue on, right?
So there's something Chris Shockley sent this in to us. He says, will we know who's getting dealt tomorrow night, i.e. players sitting or the deals being done before the game? So, happens a lot of times. Players get benched, so you expect to know more information in that regard by that point? by puck drop?
Yeah, I think actually, you know what? You don't even have to go to puck drop. You can go to the morning skate. What the lines are, how the lines are set up, who's
Okay.
skating is an extra,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because that then you're looking at who some of your uh who some of your potential, what do you call it, healthy scratches are going to be, and that could be it. I honestly, the guys that I see getting dealt, to be honest with you, I see Sunquist getting dealt. I see possibly Blaze getting dealt. I see Scandella getting dealt. Kapanen, I'd like to see him get dealt, but I don't think you will. Kapanen is not going to fit into the long-term Blues plans. I see it. There's one thing. He reposted it. Okay, we talked about it there, Erickson. I guess you missed it.
Yeah. And I answered Jason's question about the thing we had talked about the Buchnevich situation. He asked about the eating half the salary for a first and equal first and player. There is potential truth into it. Like I said, we'll be monitoring it very closely with. But
you got to see. This is what I hear what he's saying, but I think the majority of people that are saying that are not. They're not front office people, because I mean, we got lucky with Hayes, them eating as much of the contract of Hayes as they did, and that was
right,
just because they knew that him and Tortorella had a bad relationship, and they just needed to, for the good of the organization, they had to do something to help the organization. They're eating a lot of salary for 3 years. You're eating a year, but basically eating almost a year of his salary if you do salary, because you can't just do it for 1 year. You have to do it for the remainder of the contract.
right.
Right? And that's why the Buchnevich deal to me just doesn't, unless they here you know what it would take for me to move Buchnevich? Throw
What?
Ryan Nugent Hopkins in the mix. I see. But that's what it would take. If I'm going to give up Buchnevich, I want that quality of player back. Especially
I was
since
gonna
he's
say that's a lot to give up. I mean, you're giving up the first overall pick in 2011 just
What do you mean? Oh, you mean
for
for
Nuge.
but that's what I'm saying.
Well,
See,
for
that's what I don't
Buchnevich,
think people
Nuge was the first
understand.
overall
That's
pick.
what he's worth. That's what Buchnevich is worth. He's worth the Ryan Nugent Hopkins.
I
And
mean, I was gonna say. I mean, he's had an All-Star. He thrived as a rookie. I can see it. I look at right now. I mean, I believe last year he had a 37 goal season.
yeah,
Last year he had an absolutely career year in
yeah, and he's not
67.
that far behind it because I have him on fantasy team. He does me good.
Right. He had 104 points, which was just 2 off his career high.
Yeah.
So I mean, Nuge had a fantastic season last year. Has been doing really well this year. I want to put up what Chris said here. He says, "I see Blas getting sent to or sitting in the AHL and going away in free agency. I don't think he's wanted anywhere else."
Uh, that is probably true, but I don't think that you're going to set him down, because if you do, you're already taking a penalty for Varna. You already have a penalty for him going down. Right?
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mark.
Yep, my dad put it on the bottom screen a few days ago. March 3rd was his birthday. Lucky 64. And then so Jason McMillan says here the Blues already have too many contracts with guys on the backside of the deal. Booch is not staying unless we get rid of Kyrou. Thoughts on that one?
Jason, I love you, man. I love you. Jason's on my show every day. Jason, I love you, But first of all, here's the thing. Now, I'm glad he brought up Kyrou, right? I don't know, Jeremy. I don't know what your opinion on Kyrou is. I don't know if you're one of those that can't stand him or hate him. And one of the things that I hear consistently about Kyrou, and so many Blues fans have Kyrou colored glasses on in the negative.
Okay.
Kyrou is not playing to his contract. Kyrou's not playing up to his contract. Kyrou's not playing up to his contract. We paid him $8.125 million, and he's not playing up to it. So I did a little bit of looking. Kyrou's contract, him and Thomas have the same contract. He is their contract are the 57th and 58th best contracts in the NHL. Kyrou, his point level, right? And that's right. Including goalies too. That's not just forward, that's including goalies. So that pushes it down. But his points level is 74th. The guy making 74th is Quinn Hughes at 8.25. So Kyrou's only making $300,000, less than $300,000, $250,000 more than Quinn, and he's playing at that, just almost at that level. He's not overpaid like everybody thinks he is, right? And here's another thing. I'll throw something at you. Here's a line that I think we should have, and maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm not. Why not, with everything going on, put Walker with Bolduc and Neighbors?
Ooh, okay.
Look how fast Walker is.
Walker, yeah, most definitely.
How fast is Shin?
I mean,
how many times does Bolduc will you see Bolduc or Neighbors down there with the puck and nobody around him?
Yeah, which happens to be one of the issues for the offensive line, like for that line on the Blues. We got, let's see. So Jason Nichols says that Kyrou and Thomas are untouchable. And this is the thing. I do want to touch on what Jason McMillan said on this one, because I do agree with this point.
Okay.
Okay.
But I don't think he's going to stay long term. I think it, first of all, if they can't come to a deal. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump over you there, bud.
No, you're good. You're good. Okay. Go for it. Let's see what your thoughts are. If they can't
come to a deal, because honestly, they can't negotiate anything yet. They can't negotiate anything until he's within 1 year. That's when you can offer an extension. What they do is they go out and they find out what the player is thinking about for an extension. And then that helps decide what you want to do down the road. A lot of times that initial number may not be the right number. So while we're hearing all this about him wanting $8 million or that, in reality, it may not be $8 million, because that's not where the market sets, right? The market might drop. So you can't sit there and that's why I have the problem with keeping trading Buchnevich now, because you got to eat his contract to next year, which hurts you next year. You wait that year. I actually think waiting, you'll get more for him. You'll get more for him because then somebody can negotiate with him. They can do it in the summer before the season. That is once the league year starts. And the league year starts somewhere just before the draft, if I remember correctly.
But something tells me Booch would want to stay long term. If they sign him, I mean, Booch is 28 years old right now. I mean, there's no way he's gone from the Blues before he hits 30 if he comes back. That's my thing.
He's 28 now, right?
Yeah, he's 28 now. You sign him, you bring him back.
Sign him for 5 years, you get him till he's 35. That's not an old contract in my book.
I mean, hockey years are crazy. I'll be honest. You would think for a sport that's just as tough and as relentless as hockey is, guys play a long ass time.
Yeah, they do.
I do find it interesting. Now, this is the thing. Lance Descotti says he wants 7.5 mil to 8.5 mil, which I do think is I'm more in the back end of, let's say, 6.5 mil to 7.5 mil personally. Um, and I don't know if the Blues would be willing to give him up till
Okay, I
8.5 mil.
I love me. Lance is on my show all the time. Okay, Lance has his own show called own show. Well, he did. I don't know if he's restarted yet. Called The Drop, and I get what Lance is saying, but again, what he wants and what the market is two different things, and that's what we have to look at. Where's the market going to go? And I don't think the market's going to go there for him. Oh, look at a lot of guys. Look at what Tarasenko said. You know, everyone thought Tarasenko wanted. He wanted 7 to 8 million. He took 5. Right? He bet on himself. A lot of guys didn't get nowhere near the money that was reported that they wanted last season in free agency.
Yeah.
The majority of them didn't. I know O'Reilly didn't get nowhere near it. There's only I can only think of a couple of players that got close to what they were supposedly wanting. One of them being and I just went complete Barbashev in Vegas. Right?
Right.
But most players, they don't get that much. I mean, the market's not there. And that's what I think you got to look at. I'm not saying that the Blues are going to re-sign Buchnevich. I'm not. What I'm saying is you're looking at a situation that you should be looking far away, not up close. Right? And that's just the thing with me. You look at what we got. We ended up getting we got a first for Tarasenko. We got a first for O'Reilly. We only got a third for Barbashev. We should have gotten more than that for him. Those are the things that I think you have to deal with.
Yeah, and Chris is saying we gotta, well, not we, but players and agents need to wake up to the cap reality on here.
Oh, I agree.
And, Lance has said that he's talked to other front office people who says that he will get up to the 8.5 mil. I don't see him getting to the 8. It's not that I don't see Buchnevich getting 8.5 million with the Blues. I just don't see it. I feel like they're very comfortable with the team around Buchnevich.
Yeah.
And they're more willing to trade him and get pieces to build with instead of going and paying 8.5 million for one guy.
Okay, but here's the thing. That's not this season. He's not. Next season, you have him locked up at 5 point whatever it is million,
right.
5.6 million. You have him locked up next season. If you retain salary, you're retaining salary next season also. And you're not chopping off the 5.8 million. Everyone seems to think we're going to get cap space by trading him. No, we're not. You're going to add cap space.
You need that cap space.
You're not going to drop as much cap space as you think because you're going to have to either retain salary or whatever team you trade him to is going to give you somebody with the same amount of salary.
Right. No, that's the thing. Yeah, you do eat the cap space of it. And that
not my show today, Lance. I'm on somebody else's, but
but Lance, I mean, definitely reach out to us, reach out to Guy, and we can always make an arrangement to get you on in a future episode. I'll tell you this right now. Yes, the Booch is not. He's just a hot commodity right now when it comes to the trade talks. He's not actively, either he's traded, he's signed, or he's gone right now. That's not the case. But when you got 29, or I guess you could, all right, -8 of the teams for the sake of the ones that he can't go with. Yeah. So you still got over 20, maybe 23 teams, 22 teams that are still interested in getting Booch that he could possibly go to. The Blues have to think now, what do they want to do with him? You got, look, I thought Kyrou, I don't know. I had mixed feelings about the Kyrou extension in the beginning of the season. He's grown on me. I think he's improved a lot better. I like Braden Shen. I like a lot of the pieces the Blues have.
Shen is the guy I would trade in a heartbeat.
I like Shen. I feel like the Blues on the back end, on the depth, there's pieces that are back there that they can. Scandinella is definitely a piece I could see them trading.
I think it was
Marco.
Scandella. Yeah.
Yeah, Scandella, not Scandano, but Marco Scandella. I can see them trading. But and these things come up when you're 2 days away from one of the busiest times of the year in hockey.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, no,
like
it's tomorrow, right? No, today's Wednesday. Yeah.
yeah, today's Wednesday. Friday
Yeah.
is the trade deadline in the NHL.
Yeah. I'm doing
Um,
a trade deadline show. I'm coming on at the trade deadline is 2 Central, so I'm coming on at noon Central and staying on till 3 Central. I'll be posting that show probably tomorrow.
all right, perfect. Now I like so Jason says this, although we'll try to get through some of the typos in this. I think I know. Okay, I get it now. He says Shen was mentioning how Thomas has always been the vocal guy. In my eyes, he should have gotten the captain
Yep.
one.
Oh, I agree with that.
And a lot of people do feel that Robert. And before we go to the next subject, I do want to say thank you all so much for tuning in to Roundabout Sports, presented by Interstate 70 Sports Media. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Carper, alongside my friend Guy Bensing, Blues correspondent and the host of the Blue Note Fan Report. We just got a big thing out of the way, talk about the St. Louis Blues and trade deadline talks. And you know what? That is an interesting subject to tap into right now. Is given how the Blues have been doing this season, and this is the first year with Shen getting the captain, what do you feel? Do you feel it should have been Thomas?
Oh, absolutely.
Because a lot of people do
Absolutely.
feel it should have been Thomas. A lot of people feel it should have been Shen. You know, it bounces off, but I've definitely it was if not one, then the other.
I handicapped it this way: Thomas, Shin, Falk, and I knew that, and I didn't put him in there, but I knew that Pareko was going to get an A, stay with an A. I knew he was going to stay with the letter, but I knew he wasn't going to be the captain. So I didn't see him being the captain, but I did see him getting a letter. So I'm not surprised that they went with Shin, but I do think Shin has some time left, so that helps. But you just committed 8 years to Thomas, that 8-year contract, and a lot of teams have gone young when they've done that. You look at, I think, I'll spit it out here in a second. McDavid got to see very early. Jonathan Toews got to see like his second year in the league. A lot of teams have done that. I just think that I really think that going with Thomas now might have been, if you have a different coach, Thomas has the C. Right?
Okay. So all right. So if you had McAllister before, like if Chief got fired, or Drew Bannister, I'm sorry, not McAllister. If you had Bannister and when the captain spot was open, you think Thomas gets it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. Right.
Let's see.
I love what Chief did for the Blues, but it was time. It was time, and it was time last season. And he got a message sent to him from Armstrong. You need to turn this, or you need to figure out what you need to do to turn it around. I'm not going to fire him. I'm giving you the rope to turn it around. And he didn't. He got players he wanted. He got Blaze. He got he got Blaze. He got Sundqvist. Right? Sundqvist was
Right.
absolutely a player for him. That was his player. They originally talked about Sundqvist and then dropped it off. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the year, when he's not signed, he gets a contract with them. So that was an absolute Berube. I need Sundqvist to win. And to be honest, I think Berube quit in December. I think mid-December when he finally he quit. I really do. I think it got to the point where he quit. And there's one thing that's happened, and you've seen it in a lot of players. I mean, if you watch Berube's press conferences or post-game conferences, he did this and it drove me up a wall. the last thing that he left, even in wins, the last thing he said was always something negative about a player or the team. We need to do this better. We need to do that better. The last thing he said. So the last thing that these guys hear is something negative. And Bannister switched that. Bannister talks about the negative first and then the positive. Right? And the guys have responded. Now they're struggling. Now, okay, I get that. There's still a lot of muscle memory that these guys have that's got to get changed, and it takes some time to change it. But I'm happy with Bannister. I don't think he'll be the coach next year, but I'm happy with what he's done in the interim.
Yeah. Next thing I want to touch on, who do you feel is the biggest liability as far as players go on the St. Louis Blues currently?
Ooh. Biggest liability?
Yes.
Shin, Saad, Krug is on the list, but not high on the list. He's on there.
Jason says Krug at 100%.
Yeah, I knew Jason was coming with that. I knew that was coming. Last couple of games, Krug has done really well. Falk has struggled a little bit. And I get that coming off of injury. I understand that some. But to me, and then Kapanen, yeah, Kapanen's on that list. I guess those would be my four, right? I'm not going to hit the defense as hard as everybody else does. I don't think the defense is played as bad as everybody else does. And I'm not going to put Kyrou on that list, and I know so many people will. Kyrou has not been that a liability at all.
Yeah, for everybody tuning in, be sure to tell us who you think is the biggest, in your opinion, liability on the Blues, or better yet, the liability on your favorite team. I know everybody has different favorite teams they watch, so give us the biggest liability you have on your favorite NHL team. Kyrou, I definitely don't think is the biggest liability.
Not a liability at all.
No, he's had a very good year. I think it's more so the attitude that painted a big negative picture early on in the beginning of all of this that really set a bad tone, but it's gotten a lot better.
You know what set the tone on or why the Kyrou hate is where the Kyrou hate is? There's two reasons for it in my eyes. First of all is Berube. Berube and Kyrou didn't get along. Didn't get along at all. I
was like, yeah, Chief and him had so many issues.
Yeah. Chief tried to take a Ferrari and make it a Pinto. Right? And it never works. You can't turn a Ferrari into a Pinto, right? It just, you can try, but it's just not going to work, right? The engine's still going to purr. And the second thing is the St. Louis media, the main guys that cover St. Louis media, the beat writers, a couple of them consistently do negative stuff. Consistently bring you, when you watch them in game, they'll always blame a Blues player for the other team scoring. It's not how well the other team played that made that happen. It's the Blues did something wrong. Right. And that creates a lot of this. The hate that Kyrou got when Berube got fired was absolutely 100% completely on Jeremy Rutherford. And he's come back and admitted that. He's admitted that he should not have asked the question he asked, when he asked it, and where he asked it. He did that he came back and said that I should have gave more context to the question. But
right.
It was on him.
Is what matters the most in this field. Like, if you don't provide the context or the words get taken out, of the context, I mean, it can absolutely ruin. You know what? Here, hang on one second. Actually, I want to say what Jason just said. He says liability with money or skill set. Okay. Jason, we'll start with liability of skill set, since you know that he brings up a good point. There is
Yeah.
multiple different
Well, see,
liabilities,
but mine is the same. I would still say Shin.
right? But a lot of people would have different ones. I mean, I think my liability. Oh, so we have some young guns that may see playing time this season that cause affect trade or don't.
It could affect trades. I don't know. Here's the thing. What did we see happen last season with the trades? When was Tarasenko traded?
Oh, shoot. I
He
mean, they
was
were all
traded
traded
two
within, they were
weeks.
traded within the same time of each other.
No, he was traded 2 weeks before the trade deadline. Actually, it might have been more than that.
Okay.
The only guy that was traded at the trade deadline or near the trade deadline was Barbashev. All the other guys were traded early. He traded them earlier. The fact that
Right.
he's
They were
not.
bunched together. Barbershops was near the deadline.
Who was?
No, Barbershops was near the deadline. But what I'm saying,
Barbashev
the
was,
others,
but O'Reilly and Tarasenko were before the deadline.
yeah, theirs was around the same time, but at
I
couple
want to say
weeks
they were
prior.
traded in mid-February, mid to early February.
I believe so. So Jason says keep Booch, trade Shen.
Yeah, you're not trading Shen.
Sorry, Shen ain't getting traded. Anybody
Yeah.
that yeah, have fun thinking that. And
Fans want to trade your worst guy for another team's best guy.
and that's just not how it works. I personally
No.
don't even think Shen's the worst guy on the Blues, but a lot of people do, and they think if we
Well,
trade,
let me. I know since me being a host, I can kind of ask. Who do you think is the biggest liability on the Blues?
oof, you know, I think it's Krug. I really do. I think it's Torrey Krug. I I
I
think
have a hard
he
time.
has not personally met the expectations that were set for him when he joined the team.
Who set those expectations? It's the good question. The fan base set those
The fan
expectations,
base set the expectations.
thinking he was a replacement. He was going to replace Pietrangelo. He's a completely different player than Pietrangelo.
You're never going to replace Pietrangelo when it comes to this franchise. You're never going to replace him, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Well,
Now, and to me, you shouldn't look to get the next Pietrangelo. You need to get the best version of whoever you get.
yeah.
And the thing of it is, that's not what they were expecting with Torrey Krug. That being said, I still don't think Krug's really that been successful with the Blues. I don't think Doug Armstrong has been too keen on Krug over the past season and a half. And there's not as much confidence in him as a lot of fans or as a lot of people would think there is. So that's my biggest liability. I think now here's a name who I think everybody likes to crap on.
Yeah.
Yet I honestly don't think he's doing that terrible this year.
Yeah.
Ready for this one?
I know. I'm almost.
Periaco.
Who?
Periaco.
Parayko's had an amazing year.
That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
he's that guy that everybody just loves to crap on and
that's because the 2 years prior he's been injured, and this year he's healthy and he's showing what he can do when he's healthy.
Exactly. It's hard to judge an injured year. Now, if there's a lot of injured years, you can say he's injury prone. But if he has 2 injured riddled years where he struggles, okay, well then wait for the guy to get freaking healthy and then put him out there on the ice and then watch him shine, because that's what he did before he got injured and that's what he's done since.
Yep. Oh, I agree.
This has been I think a phenomenal season for him. I think defense has not been as meteoric as people want to make it seem.
I said at the beginning of the year there were 5 areas, the 5 major areas of hockey, and if you wanted to list them by concern, the 5 major areas to me are offense, defense, power play, penalty kill, goaltending. Right? Those are the 5 major areas of hockey. My areas of concern, from the most concern to least concern, was offense, power play, penalty kill, defense, goaltending. And that's almost been what it's been this whole season. those have been the areas, those three areas, power play, penalty kill, offense, have been what's killed this team more than anything else. Right?
Yeah. I
The team
mean,
can't come from behind. That has killed this team.
that has been the worst. To me, that might have been one of the worst things about the Blues this year is the fact that they can't overcome deficits.
Yeah.
And
Not
because
very well.
this is the thing, if they get behind 1-0, 2-0, you look away for a minute and the damn thing's fucking 4-0 and the Blues are down and they're already pulling Bennington and it's when they win, it's clutch. When they lose, it's like an atom bomb dropping. That's
Well,
what I've
see,
noticed about the Blues this year.
go back with this. Jason's comment. You see Jason's comment?
That narrows it down.
The bottom one.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe Jason says maybe Shen and Falk are playing hurt.
Well, okay. You want to throw that out there, and I'm not saying you personally, but a lot of fans were all over Parayko when he was playing hurt. Parayko, oh, he's so bad, he's so bad. And if you said something about him playing hurt, then he shouldn't be out there playing. That was the response you got. I find it a little hard to believe that Shen and Falk are both playing hurt, though Falk did just come back from injury. So, yes, I could see Falk playing hurt. Shen, not as much.
Right. And, yeah, the other Jason says, I know Shen's not getting traded, but a guy can dream. So, with all this being said, the last question I'm going to throw out there for us before we wrap it up this evening. All right, Guy, here we go. What is the biggest thing the Blues need to do to make that, like you said near the top of the show, you said the Blues have a very possible chance of making the playoffs, albeit not probable.
Yeah.
What do the Blues have to do to make it probable?
Get a one-timer on the power play.
Okay.
Get a one-time. If you during this trade deadline, if you can get someone that can one-time it on the power play, that would absolutely turn your power play around. And you turn your power play around, especially since you're the second most disciplined team in the league, right? You take the second least amount of penalties. You're right there, 1 and 2. If you turn your power play around, and it's turned around some now, but the last few games it just hasn't been. And then you also need something internal, right? Internally, you need this team to want to understand how to play better in the neutral zone. And I've been complaining about neutral zone for a couple of years now, probably 4 or 5 years. But that is one of the biggest. 80% of your goals come from the neutral zone.
Yeah.
And when you don't enter the zone strong, and you don't get that cycle set up, you're in trouble. And that's what I see from a lot of the Blues. So for me, that's what's got to happen. You got to get a one-timer on the power play, and you've got to fix that neutral zone.
I think for me, the biggest way for the Blues, okay, and yes, I get it. This is the most cliched thing, to me, for the Blues to make the playoffs or have the more probable chance, you got to capitalize early. You cannot fall behind 2 or 3 goals in the first period. That has been an absolute killer for them all season long. And, a lot of that does segue into the thing with the power plays. You get a power play opportunity, you cannot miss out on it come early on in the game. I think that is something that has absolutely stifled this team and kept them from being where they very well could be.
Yeah. You can't go 1 for 8 on the power play, and they did that just a couple of games ago.
Yeah. And you know what? I like what Chris says here.
Yep.
You could be up to third or even maybe first in the division if they had a much better power play, but they have one of the worst power plays out there. So, they finished very strong. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The Blues are a very strong-willed team. They always fight. The problem is how you start. You have to start great. And if you don't, well, then, take it from a guy who's played enough sports and enough sports games to know trying to win when you fall behind badly is never easy. And in a sport like hockey, especially, no, you have the Blues need to get their power play situation figured out. And look, maybe they don't do a damn thing at the deadline. They easily couldn't, and fine. That's fine. It doesn't it what matters, they can worry about the rest of the stuff in the offseason because
Yeah.
they've already exceeded the expectations of the general manager. The thing of it is, if you are this close to the playoffs, don't just say, "Oh, well, we were close." No, if you're this close to a wild card spot, go for it. Get the damn
Yeah.
wild card spot, you
I
know?
agree. I absolutely agree. Um, let's do this. Let's say they do. I keep hearing from people, well, if we make the playoffs, we're just going to get knocked out in the first round and have a crappy draft position. If the Blues make the playoffs and get bounced in the first round, their draft position will probably be. Are you ready for this? What do you think their draft position would be?
I shit. I'm gonna say probably top 15 still.
It'll be 17 or 18.
Yeah, it's not terrible. There's
No,
32
it's
teams.
not. It's not a terrible position, and that's what I think. A lot of people don't understand the draft per se and how it's set up, and not only that, how good the Blues have drafted in the 20s. Oh my goodness, how good they have drafted in the 20s.
Yeah, I think and a lot of people I think also follow the formula for every draft is different. The
Yeah,
thing with baseball, Major League Baseball and okay, the one thing that differs basketball, hockey, and baseball from the NFL. In the NFL draft, everybody just you get drafted, you go right away. You're on the
yeah,
team or you're not on the team, practice squad, whatever. Basically, you don't go to a minor league.
yeah,
Baseball, you could be drafted and spend 8 years before you get to the majors.
yep,
Hockey, you spend all these years in the AHL or other affiliates before you get your shot.
yep,
It's all about the development of these guys. And that is another strong suit of the Blues, their ability to develop who they draft. They may not draft the hottest prospect, they'll
yeah,
damn sure make the most out of who they get. And you're
yep,
absolutely right, Guy. The fact that they would get 17, 16, 17, whatever, if they lost in the first round of the playoffs.
yep,
I mean, not only does it show massive improvement in the team, but they're still in a very good draft position to get somebody to help
yeah,
what's already shown to be a good team.
yep, yeah. And if you did miss the playoffs and you were the 15th, 16th team, the chance of you jumping up the 10 spots. That's the other thing. If you won the lottery, if you were 15 or 16 and won the lottery, you would only go to 5 or 6. Or no, pardon me, 6 or 7. You would only go up 10. You can only go up 10 spots.
Right. And when you're in the lottery, you basically, I mean, I would be definitely surprised if anybody at this point but Chicago gets number one. I'll say this much.
Yeah, I'm kind of
But
with
I
you
look
there.
at it and I say to myself, if you're not number one or number two, if you're not top three in the draft lottery,
Yeah,
who cares?
yeah,
Who cares? What you could get the same guy at 5 as you would at 15 if you play your cards right in the NHL.
yep.
Like it, and so yeah, I think the Blues.
Well, look, last year we got Dvorsky at 10, and he was the 5th top rated prospect in the league.
Yeah,
Right? He was number
absolutely.
5, and we got him at 10 or 6. He was 5 or 6, and we got him at 10. Right? The guy that
Right.
I thought we should have taken at 10 was Benson.
Yeah,
Right?
Benson would have been really good.
Benson's had a decent first season with Buffalo. Buffalo's had a rough season, but Benson's had a decent time there.
Right. So it remains to be seen. Well, folks, we're going to wrap things up. Guy, I want to thank you so much for being on, but we are about to wrap things up here on Roundabout Sports. Before we go, as always, I want to put up some amazing helplines that we have here. Give me just 1 second. Okay, we have the SAMHSA helpline. Then we're going to start off with that. That is the helpline of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. That is at 1-800-662 4357. That is 1-800-662 4357. It's confidential free help from public health agencies to find the substance use treatment help that you need. We also put up at the end of the show the NAMI helpline for the National Alliance on Mental Illness. For that, it's 1-800-950-NAMI. That's 1-800-950-NAMI. It is the nation's NAMI is the largest national grassroots mental health campaign organization dedicated to building better lives for those who struggle. And of course, last but not least, we did actually have it a little bit earlier on the show. And Jason, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank all of you so much for tuning in. It means the world to me. But we have the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. And for that, you dial 988. The line is open 24/7, 365, 366 on leap years such as this year. Understand that you're never alone in this world, folks. There is always somebody out there who loves you and cares about you and, you know, always wants the best for you, even, through the harshest of times. Guy and I, we struggle. So many millions of people worldwide struggle every single day with our demons, with our struggles, but it's not a path that we need to travel alone. And
For the 988, if you're a veteran, I think it's press 2.
yep,
Either
and
1 or
for
2.
veterans, you press 2. So Guy himself is actually a veteran. So for that, just under, and you can be the listening ears for somebody else. You're just a phone call, a text message away.
Yep.
But I once again want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Guy Bensing especially. I want to thank everybody who sent in their comments. I mean, definitely one of the most interactive shows we've had in a long time, and I definitely want to keep that going in the future. Be sure to find Interstate 70 Sports Media on YouTube, on Facebook, on X. You can find Roundabout Sports on Facebook as well. So, with all that said, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. He's Guy Bensing. I'm the Maestro Jeremy Karp. And remember, life is a book full of empty pages just waiting to be written in. Make your lives worth reading.